Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless Official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The storm that had been brewing in Genoa City finally erupted when Claire Newman, shaken to her core yet more determined than ever, decided that enough was enough. For weeks, she'd carried the unbearable weight of Holden's lies, the whispers, the shadows, the evidence she wished she'd never seen. It wasn't just about infidelity or betrayal anymore. This was something deeper, darker, and far more dangerous. Holden's secret wasn't merely personal, it reached into the heart of the Newman family itself. As Claire stood before Victor Newman in the Grand Phoenix penthouse, her trembling hands clutching the incriminating documents, she knew she was about to destroy someone's life, but she also knew there was no turning back. "You deserve to know the truth," she said, her voice cracking under the pressure. "Holden isn't who he says he is, and he's been working against you this whole time." Victor's eyes narrowed, his trademark composure hardening into stone. "What are you talking about, Claire?" he demanded, rising slowly from his chair. "You'd better start explaining yourself before I lose my patience." Claire swallowed hard, her pulse hammering in her ears. "He's not just a consultant," she said. "He's been feeding information to one of your biggest competitors, someone who's been waiting for the right moment to strike at Newman Enterprises. Holden sold your business strategies, your family secrets, and even your own security plans to an outside source. And that's not all." Her voice trailed off, and the silence in the room was deafening. Nikki, who had entered moments earlier, froze in horror. "What do you mean not all?" she asked, tears welling in her eyes. Claire's lips quivered. "Holden has been using me," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "He got close to me so he could get close to you. Everything between us was a lie, every word, every touch, every promise." Victor's fists clenched, his jaw tightening as his blood boiled with rage. The mere thought of someone betraying his family, using one of his grandchildren, was enough to awaken the ruthless man he'd tried to bury. "Where is he?" Victor asked, his voice dangerously calm. "Tell me where he is right now." Claire hesitated, knowing what that tone meant. But deep down, part of her wanted justice too. "He's at the cabin near Lake Geneva," she said, her eyes meeting Victor's. "He's probably packing up to run. He knows I found out." Victor gave a curt nod. Without another word, he grabbed his coat and headed for the door. Nikki called out, "Victor, please, don't do anything you'll regret." But the look he gave her was chilling. "He made a mistake messing with my family," he said coldly. "Now he's going to learn what that means." Hours later, the wind howled outside the isolated cabin as Holden frantically stuffed cash and passports into a duffel bag. His phone buzzed repeatedly, but he ignored it. He had one goal: disappear before the Newmans found him. But before he could make it to the door, a familiar voice cut through the air like a blade. "Going somewhere, Holden?" He froze. Slowly, he turned, and there stood Victor Newman, calm, composed, and terrifyingly silent. Holden tried to play it cool. "Victor, I can explain," but before he could finish, Victor's fist connected with his jaw, sending him sprawling to the floor. "You've been explaining yourself for months," Victor snarled. "Now, you'll listen." Holden groaned, clutching his face, but Victor wasn't finished. He grabbed a length of rope from the coat rack, something Holden had carelessly left behind, and began tying him to a chair with precise, methodical movements. "You wanted to play games with my family?" Victor hissed. "Let's see how you like the rules now." Holden struggled against the bindings, panic flashing in his eyes. "You don't understand, I was forced into this," he shouted. "They threatened me. They said they'd expose something from my past, something that could ruin me." Victor leaned in, his eyes burning with fury. "And what could possibly be so bad that you'd betray my granddaughter?" Holden swallowed hard, trembling as he finally broke. "I killed someone," he whispered. The words hung in the air like smoke. Victor froze, his expression unreadable. "Say that again." Holden's voice cracked. "It was years ago, Before I came to Genoa City, I was involved in an accident. A man died. I covered it up. They found out, and they used it to control me. I didn't want to hurt Claire. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just didn't see another way out. For a brief moment, Victor's rage softened into cold calculation. Who's they? He asked. Holden's eyes darted away. Jordan, he muttered. Jordan and her network. They've been rebuilding quietly. She wanted access to Newman Enterprises, to destroy you once and for all. I was just a pawn. The name Jordan was enough to ignite another wave of fury in Victor. The same woman who had tormented his family, who had nearly cost him his wife and grandchildren, was once again pulling strings from the shadows. You think that excuses you? Victor roared. You had choices. You could have come to me, to Claire, but instead, you chose betrayal. Holden shook his head desperately. You wouldn't have believed me. You'd have destroyed me the moment you found out. Victor smirked darkly. You're right about that. Meanwhile, back at Newman Ranch, Nikki paced the floor, tears streaming down her face. Claire, do you realize what you've done? She said, her voice trembling. If Victor really went after Holden, there's no telling how far he'll go. Claire's guilt was suffocating. He deserves whatever happens, she whispered. Holden lied to me, to all of us. He made me believe he loved me, when all along, he was helping Jordan. Nikki took her by the shoulders, forcing her to meet her eyes. I understand your pain, sweetheart, but revenge doesn't heal wounds, it deepens them. You need to stop him before he does something he can't undo. Claire nodded, wiping her tears, and grabbed her coat. Then I'm going after him. At the cabin, Victor loomed over Holden, who was now sweating profusely, his voice cracking as he tried to plead his case. Please, Victor. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I wanted to tell Claire the truth. I was going to leave before things went too far. Victor's expression was cold as stone. You're not going anywhere. He reached for his phone, dialing a number. Michael, I have a situation, he said curtly. No, don't call the police yet. I want you here first. Holden's heart sank, he knew what that meant. Victor wasn't just going to hand him over. He was going to make him suffer first. When Claire burst through the cabin door moments later, she gasped at the sight before her. Holden was tied up, bruised, and terrified. Victor stood over him, eyes blazing with a vengeance that scared even her. Grandfather, stop, she cried. This isn't the way. Victor didn't even glance at her. You think he deserves mercy after what he's done? He barked. He betrayed you, Claire. He used you like a pawn. Tears streamed down her face as she moved closer. I know that, but if you do this, you'll lose yourself. You taught me better than that. For a long moment, the only sound was Holden's ragged breathing. Finally, Victor turned to her, his voice softer but still firm. You don't know what it's like to protect a family, Claire. Sometimes, justice has to be taken, not given. Holden looked up at Claire, eyes full of regret. I'm sorry, he whispered. I never meant to hurt you. Everything I said about loving you, it was real. I just didn't know how to escape what I'd done. Claire's heart twisted painfully. She wanted to hate him, to see him suffer, but part of her still saw the man she'd fallen for. You should have trusted me, she said softly. We could have faced it together. Victor's jaw clenched, but seeing Claire's anguish gave him pause. He slowly untied the ropes, though his glare never wavered. You're lucky she's here, he growled. If it were up to me, you'd be buried under this cabin right now. Holden slumped forward, rubbing his wrists. I'll turn myself in, he said weakly. I'll tell the police everything about Jordan and what I did. Victor nodded slowly. You'll do that, and you'll make sure her operation burns to the ground with you. Claire turned away, unable to watch as Victor called Michael back and arranged for Holden's arrest. The sound of sirens in the distance soon filled the air, signaling the end of one nightmare, and the beginning of another. When the police finally took Holden away, Victor and Claire stood in silence by the cabin window. The snow had started to fall, blanketing the world outside in white. "You did what you had to do," Victor said quietly. Claire shook her head. "No, grandfather. I did what I thought was right, but now I'm not sure anymore." Victor placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You showed strength tonight. Don't ever doubt that." But as they left the cabin, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that the ghosts of Holden's secret, and the shadow of Jordan's revenge, were far from gone. Back in Genoa City, word of Holden's arrest spread quickly. The media was already circling, and Newman Enterprises once again found itself in the headlines. Nikki tried to comfort Claire, but the young woman's eyes were distant, haunted by the memory of Holden's last words. Victor, meanwhile, sat in his study, staring into the fire. His revenge had brought him a momentary satisfaction, but deep down, he knew the war wasn't over. Jordan was still out there, and Holden's confession had only scratched the surface of her plan. As thunder rumbled in the distance, Victor muttered to himself, "No one threatens my family and gets away with it." And somewhere, in the shadows beyond Genoa City, Jordan smiled as she watched the chaos unfold. "Let the Newmans think they've won," she whispered. "The real game is just beginning." And thus, as the storm raged on, Claire Newman's revelation set into motion a chain of events that would forever alter the fate of the Newman family, because when Victor Newman decides to take revenge, no secret stays buried for long. The night after Holden's arrest was eerily quiet in Genoa City. The snow continued to fall outside, muffling the sounds of the world, but inside the Newman ranch, the silence felt like a suffocating blanket. Claire sat alone in the den, wrapped in one of Nikki's soft throws, staring blankly at the fire that crackled before her. Her mind was a carousel of guilt, relief, and heartbreak. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Holden's face, the look of betrayal when Victor tied him up, the despair in his eyes when the police took him away. She had wanted the truth, but now that she had it, the weight of it crushed her. She whispered softly to herself, "What have I done?" Upstairs, Nikki stood at the window, looking down at the lights flickering across the snowy estate. She had seen Victor like this before, ruthless, cold, unstoppable when his family was threatened. But this time was different. He wasn't just protecting Newman Enterprises, he was protecting Claire, his granddaughter, who had suffered through Jordan's manipulations before. Nikki's heart ached for both of them. She could still hear Victor's harsh tone from earlier that evening, when she begged him to let the police handle it. "You don't understand, Nikki," he had said, his voice trembling with anger. "This man wormed his way into our family through Claire. He betrayed her trust. He betrayed me. And for that, I will make sure he pays." Now, in the cold aftermath of revenge, Nikki wondered if the cost had been too high. When she finally went downstairs, she found Claire still awake, her eyes red from crying. "Sweetheart," Nikki said softly, kneeling beside her. "You should get some rest." Claire shook her head. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see him. I thought telling the truth would make me feel free, but it's only made me feel empty." Nikki reached. The storm outside raged like a reflection of the chaos that was about to erupt within the Newman estate. The night sky was thick with thunder and flashes of lightning, but inside the grand mansion, another storm was brewing, one that no one could escape. Claire stood at the center of it, trembling but resolute. She had spent weeks agonizing over the truth that Holden had begged her to keep hidden. But tonight, after all the lies, manipulation, and emotional torment, she had decided, no more secrets. Her voice shook as she looked Victor straight in the eye, his expression unreadable but his presence commanding. The air was so tense that it felt like even the walls were holding their breath. "Grandfather," Claire whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of her decision. "There's something you need to know about Holden, something I should have told you weeks ago." Victor's eyes narrowed. "What is it, Claire?" His voice was calm, too calm, like the calm before a violent explosion. Holden, who had been standing behind her, immediately stepped forward, panic flashing across his face. "Claire, don't. Please." His tone was desperate, his hand reaching out to her as though he could physically stop the truth from escaping her lips. But it was too late. Claire turned to face him, tears brimming in her eyes. No, Holden. I can't protect you anymore. Not after what you've done. Victor's gaze darted between them. What the hell is going on here? His booming voice echoed through the room, shaking Claire to her core. She drew in a shaky breath. Holden has been lying to all of us. He's not who he says he is. The reason he came into our lives, the reason he got close to me, was to get to you, grandfather. For a brief second, silence consumed the room. Then Victor's expression darkened. What did you just say? Holden's face drained of color. Claire, please, stop this, he said through gritted teeth. You don't understand everything. But Claire pressed on, her voice growing steadier, fueled by weeks of guilt and pain. He's been working for someone else, someone who wants to destroy you and the entire Newman family. He wasn't here out of love or loyalty. He was here to gather information, to tear us apart from the inside. Victor's eyes burned with fury. Who the hell is he working for? Holden clenched his fists, shaking his head. Victor, it's not what she thinks. Claire's words cut him off like a blade. He's working for your oldest enemy, Ashland Locke's associates. They wanted revenge for Ashland's death. Holden was supposed to infiltrate the family, earn our trust, and bring you down. But what he didn't expect, she said bitterly, her eyes glistening with betrayal, was that he'd fall in love with me. Victor froze. The color drained from his face, replaced by a look of cold, dangerous calm. The same calm he wore before making his deadliest moves. You mean to tell me, he said, his tone low and measured, that this man, this pathetic coward, came into my family to finish Ashland's dirty work? Holden swallowed hard, his mind racing. It wasn't like that, Victor. Yes, it started that way, but I changed. I fell for Claire. I never wanted to hurt her, or you. But Victor didn't care about explanations. He took a slow step forward, his eyes narrowing into deadly slits. You toyed with my granddaughter's heart to get to me? You betrayed her trust? My family's trust? Holden's breath hitched. I swear to you, I stopped the mission. I didn't send anything to Locke's people. I couldn't do it after what Claire showed me. But before he could finish, Victor grabbed Holden by the collar and slammed him against the wall. You think I believe that garbage? He growled, his voice dripping with venom. You come into my home, eat my food, pretend to care about my family, and now you're telling me you had a change of heart. Grandfather, stop. Claire cried, grabbing Victor's arm. Please, don't do this. I just wanted the truth out, I didn't want this to turn violent. Victor didn't let go. His eyes locked on Holden's, filled with a hatred that only years of betrayal could breed. You're going to tell me everything, he hissed. Holden struggled to breathe as Victor tightened his grip. I'm telling you the truth, he gasped. The people behind it, they're dangerous. If you hurt me, they'll come after all of you. They'll come after Claire. The mention of Claire's name only made Victor's fury intensify. You dare threaten my family after what you've done? Holden's knees buckled under the pressure. I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you. Victor finally released him, and Holden fell to the floor, coughing. Claire rushed to his side, torn between anger and compassion. She hated what Holden had done, but part of her couldn't ignore that deep down, she had loved him, and maybe, despite everything, he loved her too. But Victor wasn't finished. You think you can manipulate my granddaughter and walk away alive? He said coldly. Not tonight. Before Claire could react, Victor snapped his fingers toward the door. Two of his private security guards appeared, stone-faced and waiting for orders. Take him to the cellar, Victor commanded, his voice chillingly calm. Tie him up. I want him where I can see him. Grandfather, no. Claire screamed, her voice cracking. You can't do this. Victor turned to her, his expression cold as steel. He lied to you, Claire. He used you. And now, he's going to pay for it. The guards dragged Holden away as he struggled, shouting, "Victor, you don't understand. They'll kill her if you do this. Please, listen to me." But his pleas fell on deaf ears. Moments later, in the dark, damp cellar below the mansion, Holden sat tied to a chair, his wrists bound tightly behind his back. Victor stood before him, silent, watching him like a predator circling its prey. The only sound was the faint dripping of water and Holden's labored breathing. Victor finally broke the silence. "You should have known better than to mess with my family," he said, his voice low and deadly. "Now, you're going to tell me everything about Locke's people, every name, every move, every message you sent." Holden shook his head weakly. "It's not that simple. They have people everywhere. If I talk, we're all dead." Victor smirked. "You think I'm afraid of those cowards? You're going to talk, or I'll make you." He grabbed Holden's chin, forcing him to look up. "You don't scare me," Holden spat, though his voice trembled.